What's up, Bears? Eric here, and in this video, we're going to be talking about Pedro Pascal, race swapping, and butthurt filmgoers. Apparently, that's the topic of the day. I've seen so many videos about this already today, and most of them have left out some really important pieces of this article of things that he has said, and just left in the parts that they want to complain about. Because that's how it is on YouTube. That's how it's crafted now in a way so that you can just take one line out of an article and say, I'm gonna make a 10-minute video or whatever complaining about this one thing and leaving out important context that explain why he says what he says and how he feels about it. So we're gonna read the whole article and then I'm gonna tell you why I agree with him. Because I think what he's saying makes a lot of sense here. It says, Pedro Pascal condemns butthurt filmgoers who complain about race swapping. And this is the first part. This is the first quote. This is the one that everybody's sort of running with, and they're not going down to the next part here. It says, or he says, I think that change is really important and that the best way to continue representation is just casting a person into a role that isn't limiting a character to racial identity, especially if it's an IP that we're familiar with or a book, and people get so butthurt about this kind of stuff. But who cares? Because it's the coolest way of moving the needle is being open about the casting in every way. So we're going to read the second part, but first I want to say, even if we took the second part out, there's absolutely nothing wrong with what he's saying here. This is something that a lot of people have advocated for years, and I think now that they're getting what they ask for, they realize they don't like what they were asking for. And that is just cast the person who is the best in the job. If somebody comes in and auditions for something and they're really fucking good, you cast that person regardless of what they look like, who they are, you put them in that role and you let them kill the role, right? You let them go in and crush it. That's what a lot of these people have been asking for. The problem is now we're seeing diversity in casting because the people that are best for the role aren't always identical to the source material. And a lot of times it's when you see a character that is historically white being changed to someone else. And that is because a lot of the nostalgic stuff that we love was built on the foundation of white people being the primary lead character in just about everything. And so we're seeing that change now, and we are casting based on who is best for the role. It's called blind casting. It's a very new, well, it's not a new concept, but it's something we're seeing a lot in Hollywood now, is casting people that are just best in those roles. But I can see how they're trying to spin this quote. But let's go down and see exactly what Pedro meant, because there's more here. This isn't to say that Pascal wants to see representation forced into projects, feeling there should also be efforts made into crafting the strongest story possible. In any case, he suggests that we are making progress, even if Hollywood directors and producers are still trying to figure out the best way to go about it. And here we go. Instead of being like, these are the instructions, this is how we need to follow it, let's label what representation is and follow those, he says, no, I think we need to continue discovering it and making sure that we understand that representation is in service of telling the story instead of fulfilling a political frustration, which is totally legit also. So he's saying, I get it. Political frustration is something that we have to deal with, but we also need to make sure we're telling the best story, which is something that mirrors the other half of what he said here, is that it's a thing about like casting who is best in the role for the story, but also being mindful that there are things going on in the world that require more attention. Reading comprehension is extremely important. And I can tell a lot of channels either don't have reading comprehension or they just want you to believe in their narrative, because that's all that matters for them at the end of the day, is getting that out there and pushing that out there into the algorithm. And then the last part here is, it says it's a very interesting thing to navigate. And I think that it deserves all the attention of the world so that when we do navigate it and the needle does move and that things do kind of like change. So he's saying that, yes, he believes that diversity and representation is important when it comes to movies and TV shows and stuff. But the story is also extremely important, and political frustrations sometimes make people want to push things harder, but it still needs to be in the service of the story. I don't see how anyone could absolutely disagree with that and say that that isn't what we've all asked for. We all want the best people at the helm. We all want the best people in the roles. We want them to focus on better quality storytelling, and we also understand that diversity is something that is important as well. You put all that together and you get this. And I think this is absolutely fantastic. This is the way he's looking at it. And all of the people trying to spin this negatively and make him look bad, all because they're taking it personally because they think race swapping is somehow a problem. So I totally agree with Pedro. We need to focus on the quality of the story. We also need to be mindful about diversity, and we need to cast the best people in the roles. That's it. End of it. And if you're upset about that, then you probably need to do some self-reflection.